Well, welcome to your group. I'm so excited you're here for week number 1 of a series of groups that we're doing in correspondence with a message series based on this book called Follow by Dr. McNaughton. I'm so excited that he's here with us today. And as we start the series, what I'd love to do is I'd love to introduce you to him, let you hear his heart, hear the story of this book and where all of this content came from. And then we're going to talk about what it means to follow closely after Jesus. So first of all, Dr. McNaughton, in the book, you identify 7 attributes of followers of Jesus. Can you give us a brief overview of what we're going to talk about the next 7 weeks?
Yeah, so I'll tell a quick story here. The shocker, that we're going to all meet Jesus one day came for me. I was actually studying for a comprehensive exam in my doctorate. And my head was full. I had been studying for, this is crazy, but 7 months to take an exam.
Wow.
And I was busy and all this stuff. So I just wanted to spend time with Jesus. The Gospel of Matthew has, if you have one of those old Bibles that have red letter edition, Matthew has a lot of red. And so I wanted to just be with Jesus. So I was reading just the red, and I got to the Great Commission, which is Matthew 28:18-20. And it says, Jesus says, make disciples of all nations. And I don't know, it's hard to go back to that moment, but honestly, I walked through a door at that point that changed my life. And I thought, wow, Jesus resurrected from the dead, and he told his disciples to do one thing. And it's not to go, although that's assumed, it's make disciples. It's a command. And so in response to your question, that's what actually propelled me to say, okay, how do I make disciples? And I asked myself the question. It was scaring myself, actually. I had 2 degrees in Bible, raised in a Christian home. My dad was a pastor and a businessman. And I asked myself, what is a disciple? And unfortunately, I couldn't give a clear and succinct answer. It was kind of fuzzy. I walked from there into the other room where I was on staff at a great church, went to this guy who was about 64 at the end of his ministry. And I said, do you have a few minutes? And he said, sure. I said, don't fire me. What's a disciple? He was fuzzy too.
Wow.
And I said, would you disciple me? And he says, what do you mean? What do you got in mind? And I said, I don't know what I've got in mind. And I said, well, just do it anyway. And he said, well, let's do it together. But together behind the scenes for like 1.5 years, we did that. So what ended up happening for me is I kept asking people who I looked up to spiritually, would you disciple me? And it seems weird because you'd think I would know, but I didn't. And finally, I was complaining one day in my time with the Lord. I'm trying to do what you want me to do, but I can't even find anybody to do it. And the Lord kind of spoke to me and said, give away what you wish somebody would give to you. It's got to start somewhere.
Wow.
And so that pushed me to the Gospel of Matthew. Because in Matthew, I knew we had the red letter edition. I thought, well, it emphasizes the teaching of Jesus, so I'll just do that. And I discovered, really, just from the start of that there are 7 things that Jesus' early followers did or learned to do. The very first one of them is where he says, follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. And I thought, okay, so he said follow, so what am I doing? I'm learning to be with him. He didn't change my theology, I just kind of hang out with him. And then the second thing he does is he preaches the gospel, not to me, but to others. So what am I doing then? I'm learning to listen, kind of like learning to align my heart to what he talks and what he thinks about. And then I noticed right away that he started doing supernatural things, started healing people. And I thought, well, what am I doing? I'm with him. Well, I guess I'm learning to heal by watching him heal. But it was shocking to watch him heal people because he didn't just physically heal him. Sometimes he healed them emotionally or relationally while he was healing them physically or otherwise. So that was really cool to see. And then I noticed that he said to them right away, they were really early in their walk with him, and he said, you are the salt of the earth, you are the light of the world. And I thought, what am I doing when he says that? Well, I'm learning to influence others. And about that time, I'm thinking, wow, this is pretty cool, And then you get to the next one, and he says, those people you hate. And if I ask that question to Christians, they're like, I don't hate anybody. But we all know we do, right? I mean, I don't, but maybe.
I do.
No, we all do, don't we? And it comes out in like sly comments and stuff. And
Sure.
Jesus knows that, and he says, hey, you know your enemies? Love your enemies. And so that's the next one, learning to love. You really learn to love when you can love your enemy.
Wow.
And you learn to pray for them. And then you learn to pray after that. And I love how it starts because he tells you how not to pray. Mm-hmm. Don't pray like religious people who use a lot of words, but then he taught them the Lord's Prayer. Great prayer, you know.
Yeah. And
then the next thing he says is, don't store for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy. And you're like, man, what am I doing here? You know. So he tells us not to, you know, make lots of money. He doesn't say that. No, he says, don't store for yourselves treasures on earth. So invest in things that matter. So what are you learning to do when that happens? He says, learn to manage what he gives you. You're a steward of what he gives you, whatever it is, not just your money, but your time and everything else. So those are the 7 things. Learn to be with him, learn to listen, learn to heal, learn to influence, learn to love, learn to pray, and learn to manage.
Wow. Wow, wow. Over these next 7 weeks, we're going to delve into these 7 topics together and get really specific, because our goal is that you move from thinking you're doing good at following Jesus to having some handles as you follow Jesus. Now, one last thought. In the book, you say that there's 4 environments every Christian needs in order to grow closer to Jesus. Those 4 quickly are...
Well, there's being in a large crowd or like a weekend service. If you followed Jesus, you would be in a large crowd at times. Then you would be also in a small group of about 10 or 12 people. You had the disciples in a group of people where you can ask questions and you can see stuff lived out and, you know, see what real love looks like, things like that. Mm-hmm. Then Jesus said, where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, I'm in the midst. And so there's this really powerful one-on-one relationship, or sometimes one with 2 people, where people who really know you and they know where you're struggling and they can say, hey, you know, here's an area. Or you can say to them, hey, can you hold me accountable? Or would you pray with me about something? And so the one-on-one situation. And then there's just the time alone with God. And if you followed Jesus very much in the first century, he would have taken you to the place of prayer. And he would have said, hey, I'm not going to talk to you for a while, but I'm going to, you know, spend some time with the Father. You can do that as well if you will. And so those 4 contexts, large group, small group, the one-on-one, and also the quiet time. I find that if people will grow in those 7 attributes, in those 4 contexts, I've seen God just do incredible things in people's lives.
It's amazing. Well, it's worked in me as I've been on this journey with Dr. McNaughton. Our staff is excited about it. I hope you're excited about it. Over these next 7 weeks, let's make the decision to invest our life in those 4 environments, and let's grow closer to Jesus through the 7 attributes that Dr. McNaughton just shared with us as we learn to follow Jesus. Now, I encourage you for these next 7 weeks, make every effort you can to be in your group and to be with us on Sunday mornings as we discover what it means to follow closely after Jesus. God bless you as you discuss this with your group leader now.